Hi, I'm Angela Williams, and thank you for tuning in with us today to Voice Up for the Voiceless. We're a podcast that addresses the issue of child sexual abuse and exploitation, and we hope to speak healing into the hearts of survivors with truth, with God's Word, with compassion, and with a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I'm here with my beautiful co-host.
Yes, and welcome. And we're so excited to have you all today. I am Christa Marshall, and we are going to get into a topic today that challenges me for sure, and just make sure that we can kind of be on the right path of healing and growth and understanding who we are. So, Angela, do you want to go ahead and go into what we're talking about today? Or
Well, a lot of people know what their IQ is, right? What's your IQ?
I don't know mine.
I don't
say
know my
that.
IQ. So we're going to talk about EQ.
Yes.
EQ is emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And I think for us survivors, oftentimes our emotions get stunted. They get shut down. We have a heart full of emotions that we don't know what to do with.
Right.
So I think it's a great topic for survivors and really anybody because, we have to navigate this world with not only our own emotions, but the emotions of other people. And we have to know, what to do with those emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we're going to unpack this. It's going to be a fun show.
Yeah, it is. It is. And let's talk about what is emotional intelligence? So I have heard that. I kind of know a little bit of a background about it, but you tell me, what is emotional intelligence? What would you say?
I'm going to read the definition so I don't get it wrong.
Okay.
So it's the ability to identify, to understand, and to manage your emotions, and to recognize and respond well to the emotions of others. So that's the clinical definition.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good. And I think that that's one of those things that we don't realize, that we can have a deficit, especially if we've had trauma or our soul isn't completely healed, which is our own mind, will, and emotion. So yeah, I think that is one of the things that is really good for us to talk about. So let's get into it. Let's go.
All right. So there are 5 things that we're going to talk about today. One is self-awareness. I think 2 is survivors. And if you're just tuning in, our podcast, as I said earlier, deals with child sexual abuse and exploitation. I am a survivor of 14 years of child sexual abuse from age 3 to 17. So really at a time where my emotions were supposed to be being developed and learned, I was struggling in a minefield of abuse. And then Christa has definitely dealt with her children being sexually abused. So we come at this with a heart of experience and of hoping to help survivors to unwind this. But sometimes you don't even, being self-aware of what emotion you're feeling. Sometimes you don't even know what you're feeling because you've masked them for so long. So the second thing that we're going to talk about today is self-regulation. How we regulate those emotions, I think is really tough. Motivation, empathy, and social skills.
All right.
So those are 5 big topics to cover. I don't know if we're going to get them all covered, but we'll do our best.
We'll kind of go through it. Yeah. And the cool thing about emotions is that God created them for us. Okay. And I always say that emotions are a good place of knowing kind of what's going on, but you're not supposed to lead with your emotions. So they are great indicators, but not good leaders.
Wow.
And so for me, that's been a thing to just make sure, okay, am I leading with my emotion? If I am, that's not a good leader. So I think that having the emotional intelligence to kind of go through this is going to be something that is definitely a life skill, if you want to call it that. So, yeah.
Well, so did Jesus have emotions?
Of course. I would have to say so. He was made like we were, and so one of the things that they talk about even in the Word is that he cried. Jesus wept. That was a whole verse. Those two words were a whole verse. And I think that it's important for us to know that he is human. He had emotions, And then also it talks about him in the Word in Ephesians that to be angry but sin not. He tells us that. We can have the feeling of anger, but we don't have to sin in that, which I think is amazing to do. And then also too, he's close to the brokenhearted. And so that one is so beautiful because it shows us that he is right there with us. He knows what we're feeling. He understands that. So
and that he has the emotion, the big emotion of compassion.
Yes.
And he walked in flesh here on earth to know what we're feeling.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's go.
So we're going to start with self-awareness. one of the biggest, I think, issues with survivors dealing with their emotions is that we weren't able to trust our emotions as children, and B, we weren't able to express our emotions. It's coming to mind my stepfather's voice, for me not to cry.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you something to cry about. And when you're a little one and you're being abused and you're being told not to cry, when you're being physically hurt, emotionally hurt, spiritually hurt, and you're having to stuff those tears down, like you're having to bite your lip, you're having to do everything because you're going to get punished if you cry. Because he didn't want to see tears. He didn't want to see me cry. So I was able and learned to shut down my emotions, to not cry. So as an adult, I've got to relearn that. Like, talk about emotional intelligence. I've got to learn that it's okay to cry and give myself permission.
Yeah.
And if you are listening and you have felt that you almost feel numb, that is from the abuse, from the trauma.
Absolutely.
You numb your emotions.
It is so
and
true.
You've got to learn how to connect those dots again, connect those synapses, whatever it is that shut us down. I think another thing that we do is we disassociate from our emotions. They're too hard. It's too painful to feel that. It's too much. So I am going to disassociate. That was not me. That was another person that it happened to. So those are other ways that trauma really impacts our emotions.
Oh, yes. And I think that can kind of take us into some practical tools and ways that we can kind of walk through what it means to even reclaim and understand and get more emotional intelligence. So I guess that goes into our number one, what you were talking about, was self-awareness.
Well, I think knowing what we feel and naming it. Like, for so many years, I didn't know. It's kind of like that movie where they ask what her favorite food is, or I'll have what he's having. Or, I can't think of the movie. Yeah. But it's knowing what you're feeling and naming that emotion. Is it anger? Is it resentment? Is it sadness? What is that emotion? And get in touch with what you're feeling. There's I'm going to put it in the link, but there's also an emotional wheel that kind of brings you down to the core of what you're feeling. Are you familiar with that?
Absolutely.
To talk more about that?
Yeah, we use that a lot at my organization. It's just an emotional wheel, but I actually have one, and I'm going to look for it because I actually purchased it. But it's an emotional wheel to really help you understand your emotions, but then they're linked to Bible verses, which I thought was awesome to help you kind of overcome and understand what's really going on with you.
Great to have.
So I'm going to definitely put that in the link, but I think that that's one of those things that even helps me, and because I have had to survive for so long and take care of others for so long, emotional intelligence for me was one of those things that I just swallowed. I didn't want to feel because I had to take care of everybody else. I didn't have time to deal with my own stuff, because I had to take care of my daughter, and then I had to take care of everyone else. And then I had to take care of all the people that I have in my mentorship program, so there's a point to where I would hear a story or I would be going through something and I would just swallow it. And I'm like, oh, I'm not okay. And even up until today, there's times where I do not understand the emotion that I'm still feeling. So I take that emotional wheel out sometime in my own time, and I'm like, okay, what's going on, Christa? Okay, I'm 43 almost next week. And I'm like, and I'm like,
celebrate.
Thank you. But I look and I'm like, okay, what's going on? What am I feeling? Okay, that's resentment. Okay, that's bitterness. I didn't deal with that in time. So let me deal with that. So it's so important to have an understanding. But then there's other emotions that I understand immediately. So you can halfway have an understanding, but I wouldn't say I have the highest IQ of emotional EQ of emotional intelligence, because I'm still learning how to deal with some of the negative. One of the things I was always taught and grew up with is the positivity side of it, and being positive and not focusing on the negative. Don't focus on those things, but you focus over here. And so that's one of those things that I have to deal with and understanding in real time. No, this is negative, and it's okay to identify this as negative. So what are the emotions around it? So
and then take it to God.
Take it to God.
If it is bitterness, if there's a root of bitterness that has set up in your heart, taken root in your heart, God understands.
Yes.
Like, we weren't made to be perfect robots at all.
Yes.
And he created these emotions inside of us for a reason.
Yeah.
So even if it's a negative emotion or something that resentment was real big in my life. I resented my stepfather for the abuse.
Yes.
I resented my mother for looking the other way.
Yeah.
I resented all of our extended family because even the physical abuse that I suffered, somebody should have stepped in and said, this isn't right.
Yeah.
But I resented that. And I had to really take that to God and say, they are blind. They are oblivious to what was going on. And I can't hold them hostage for the rest of my life. Because when that root of bitterness takes root in your heart, when that bitterness takes root, it infects you.
Oh, yeah.
It infects everything about you, and that infection grows. So you got to get that out. You got to get that.
Yes.
And that's a part of an emotion that is strong and it's valid. Yeah, I had a right to be resentful, but it hurts me, It's like even unforgiveness. When you walk around with that, it's a poison that you're drinking.
Yes.
They could care less. They're oblivious to how you're feeling.
And they're living their life.
They're living their life, their best life, most times. So I hope that helps, God. I hope guys, we're explaining this well. But self-awareness is a big part. And I love the scripture, search me, O God, and know my heart.
Ugh. I'm glad you love that one.
I do. I love it because I'm constantly saying, God, give me a pure heart.
Yeah.
Like with relationships and, because we all have motivations and we sometimes, I will admit, sometimes try to manipulate situations and that's not right, So I want to have a pure heart in everything that I go about.
Yeah. And I mean, the reason why I love that scripture as well, but I also like the opposite side is that it's challenging. And sometimes you want to just sit in the fact of like, okay, God, you searched my heart and I got through this. But then he searches it again and he finds something else and something else. And so sometimes you just want to sit, but that's not what he's called for us. So we got to keep growing. We got to keep growing. So, but yeah, I do love that verse. So yeah, that's good.
All right. So here's the next tough one is self-regulation.
Okay.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
But I love when I look at Jesus and when he was angry in the temple because they were using the temple for gambling and for evil. And he went in and he turned those tables over. Like there wasn't a lot of self-regulation there.
Or was there? Because he probably could have called down angels.
He could have lit them on fire. He could have burned them right there. Right. So maybe you're right. Maybe that was self-regulation and letting them know how disgusted he was with evil.
Yeah.
But I love my Jesus because he was a warrior. He fought for righteousness.
Yes, yeah. And I think that like kind of what you're saying in that regulation. I'm sorry, say that again.
I was just saying, and it was also humble, very humble.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. And I think kind of with what you're saying, though, is that like self-regulation doesn't mean not saying anything or fully pulling back. Like you were saying with the story of Jesus and turning over the tables, like he walked into something that was to him disgusting and him turning over the tables and getting attention and speaking out against those things was the way that he was able to self-regulate in a sense. Because again, like I said, like he could have done so many other things at any point in time while he was here, but the self-regulation came to where he wasn't silent either. He was able to speak up and speak out.
That's a good point because many of us are survivors have lost our voice. Yeah. Like we just were shut down. Yes. We were silenced. We couldn't talk about it. We couldn't share with anybody. And we lost that ability to express how we were feeling. I know early in my marriage, it was really tough because my husband would say, how are you? And I would say, fine. He goes, oh, you're not fine when you answer that way. He got to know that she just doesn't know how to express what she's going through right now. So it was really challenging for me to learn how to express my emotions and say how I was feeling. Like, I'm feeling really sad. I'm feeling really hurt. I'm feeling really grieved today or tired today. So it's not always a bad thing to regulate your emotions. It can be a good thing. Because that's part of your healing and part of getting your voice back.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. And one of the practical tips that will help as far as self-regulating with your emotions is to take a 3-breath pause. And I remember when we did the podcast when we had our therapist on, Kelly, I remember her talking about like the breathing, like the... And then again, like how it will help regulate when you're kind of dealing with anxiety and different things. But we even kind of take it into the emotional regulation as well. And just breathing and pausing can help put things back into perspective.
And I think too, when I stop and take a breath before I respond and really kind of think about, okay, what just happened really hurt, or I'm really upset about it. But instead of responding immediately, just take a breath, take a pause, take a beat.
Yes. Yeah.
And then think about how I'm going to respond versus just reacting.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think self-regulation is a part of not just reacting, but thinking about before you react.
Yep. That's what we
what
wrote.
that looks like.
Yeah. Respond, don't react, which is so true. Yeah.
And this is a great verse. A fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. So it takes a beat, takes a moment.
It takes a moment. Yes.
All right, we're going to dive into empathy and rebuilding trust. That's another EQ point.
Yes. Yeah. And as we know before, and we've talked about that survivors can struggle with empathy, you know, and so not because you want to be selfish or you want to just kind of think about yourself, but in survival mode, you know, it teaches you to shut down your feelings in order just to make it through the day, you know, and so that's one of those things that like we want to kind of get out of that routine of just kind of stepping back into that same place that we've always known, which is to just survive.
Well, I think empathy, I think you lose survivors. I know I struggled with this and I've overcome it, but you think about they don't know what I've been through. Like, you know, and having empathy for someone else, it's almost like there's a comparison that sets up with survivors. I know many times survivors have said, oh, just because my abuse lasted for so long, they'll say, well, my abuse wasn't as bad as your abuse. It only happened for 3 months. And it's like, oh, did it hurt? Did it steal your innocence? Are you still suffering from it? You know, so I think as the comparison game, we need to get rid of that because hurt is hurt, pain is pain, trauma is trauma. And I've learned to be empathetic where people are in all their situations because people hurt. There's so much hurt in this world. People are hurting in so many ways.
Wow.
So
that's such a great perspective because I didn't walk through that. So I don't personally know that, but it helps me as a person that advocates and fights for others to understand that that can be a comparison game at times.
And then this is the hardest thing in the world. And I can't even believe I'm going to say it, but I am. But it's even having empathy for the abusers. And that's tough. That is so hard. But what horrible thing or thought has happened in their life to make them act out on a child? I often thought about that, my stepfather, like, what did you go through to make you inflict so much pain on me? Like, what horrible thing happened in your life? And that's a question mark I always have in my head. I'll never know.
Yeah. And you're so right. 100% correct. 100% correct in that, you know, like, it's hard. It takes a level of healing to have empathy for a person that's hurt children. It takes so much. And I think that, like, kind of what you're saying, Angela, it just shows how good God is, because I always say this, and not trying to get on a tangent, but like, I hear and I see abusers often. When we go to court, I'm looking at an abuser. You know, when we're walking down the street, you know, you just never know who you're in front of. But the thing that I think about is that God still allowed his breath into their lungs, regardless of everything that they've done. Like, his breath is still there, which means they still have purpose. They still have purpose. So
and
God,
they have an opportunity for redemption.
They have an opportunity for redemption. God didn't strike them dead immediately. Why? You know, and that keeps that kind of eternal perspective on everything that's going on, because again, like, it's just so much bigger than the experience that we've had. And I wish that we could just take it on sometimes and just say, they need to go to hell. They need to do this. They. But the truth is that we don't see that full picture that God sees. And I would never, going through everything that I've been through, ever think that I would trust you and believe in and co-sign with what you're saying. But it's true.
Well, I had to get to a place where I actually had to start praying for the people that I didn't have empathy for,
Yes.
or I resented, I just had to start praying. And sometimes I couldn't even get a prayer out. I would just say, bless them, Lord. I would just call their name, just bless them. And then that I would really just pray for their souls and pray for their hearts to be convicted.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
But that's a tough one.
That's a whole show.
And I think part of having empathy is to be able to trust again. And that's, we've done a show on trusting, and that's really, really hard. But I love that having empathy makes us more like Jesus, because Jesus is very compassionate and very empathetic to what we're going through. And then there's a practical step. You want to share the practical step?
Ask God to soften your heart towards others. That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. And start small and practice listening and make a space for other people's stories without judgment. So just being there. That's one of those things. Being present is so big. Yeah.
All right. We are stepping into, we've talked about empathy, some social skills.
Okay, let's go into that.
So I think this just sums it up. The scripture sums it up in what our goal for our emotions are and our social skills. It's the fruit of the Spirit.
Yep.
So Galatians 5:22 and 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And that last one, the self-control, really deals with our emotions, because it's something that we have to control because God tells us to.
That's so true. Controlling emotions and when you understand your emotions, it helps you control them better. And that's one of those things that when we're talking with some of my clients at times, they'll rage or they'll get angry but then they'll lash out, there's something behind it. And one of the things that we talk about is like, hey, before you get to that place, you always have something. Always something there. That thing is what you have to name so you can understand what's going on, and then you can move forward. Because if you understand that, then okay, I'm actually not this. Because sometimes you can think that you're an angry person because of what you've gone through, but that's not fully emotional intelligence to take on the identity of an emotion at all.
And I try to, we live in Atlanta, so traffic's crazy, and you got people screaming and yelling and, using their hands to do certain motions. And I have to stop and think, okay, what's this poor person going through that they're acting out so emotionally? So I think if we stop and think, and it goes back to the empathy, and it goes back to not judging people, but to really have compassion in the moment to what they've been through. And and I acted out horribly at a young age, many ways. And my sweet husband was always there with compassion. And now when he's having a bad day, he's got his bank filled up, his bank account, so I can show compassion to him. It's like, okay, what's he going through that he is frustrated today?
Wow.
But it's growing. It's a part of emotional intelligence is always growing, and you always want to increase that that number, that IQ number or EQ number.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of like what you said, to just reiterate, to think, let God search your heart to see where you are struggling, the areas that you have to grow in, because when you allow him into your heart, you'll be able to see, and it's not always everyone else sometimes.
And it's a stepping stone. I think it's a learning process. I know in my life where I've not responded correctly or I've not reacted correctly, I've reacted out of anger. It's like, I so regret how I acted out. And words are powerful, and you can't take them back. So every opportunity that I have responded incorrectly, it has grown me. It has grown me to, I don't want to respond like that again.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't want to do that again. And especially my children, which is sad, where I should have responded differently in a situation, and I got angry, or I didn't say the right thing, but. It's a growing opportunity, is what I'm trying to say. You grow from those mistakes
day by
that
day.
we make.
Day by day. Absolutely.
Day by day. Okay, so I think as a practical step 2 is to, what emotion are you afraid to feel? I think that's I really wanted to get to kind of unpack that a minute. And that's the emotion that you need to deal with, that you need to take to God. I struggled really feeling that pain in the little girl because I didn't want to be weak and I didn't want to be vulnerable. So I had to get to a place in my healing where I really had to name that. You know, that pain cut so deep.
So what was the name of that?
It was really, I think, abandonment that I was dealing with. The abandoned little girl feeling very alone.
Wow.
But thank God I've overcome that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
that's a great one. Yeah.
Pray that if you're dealing with that you can overcome it too. That's why we do what we do here on Voice Up for the Voiceless, is to help survivors on their healing journey. And in their healing journey. So I have a great graphic. We're going to try to put it up on the screen if we can figure it out in editing. But I'll show it to you, and then I'm going to unpack it. I know you can't read that. But I found this, and got to give credit with credit was due. This is from Mr. Eric Partaker. And he posted this in social media. And I just want to run through it because I just think it's awesome. And it's 8 rare traits of a leader with emotional intelligence.
Wow.
And I think we all need to be leaders. We all need to be leaders in our homes, in our church, in relationships, in our jobs. So I think it's just great practical knowledge to have. But one, and we talked about this already, self-aware. But it's that they understand how their emotions affect people, decisions, and outcomes. So just like we were talking about when I used to respond poorly, and sometimes I probably do, but you know, that there was an outcome to that. You know, there's a counter response, and there were words that were spoken that I can't take back.
Take them back.
So I think just taking a moment and taking a beat to realize what the outcome's going to be with your emotion, to be self-aware. Number 2, I love this one, to be humble. They own their mistakes and take feedback without getting defensive.
Wow.
And that's a really tough one.
Yes. Yeah.
Number 3, they're tuned in. They pick up on tone, body, language, and what's not being said. Because we communicate a lot. We had a guest on a few weeks back, and what she say, it's like people make opinions in 3 seconds of meeting you? That was shocking.
Yes, during the interviews. Yes, absolutely. Yep, she did.
And then number 4, you want to be approachable. People feel safe being real with them with no fear of judgment. And that ties into what we say. And then number 5 is to be adaptable. They adjust quickly when things shift without losing focus. Being adaptable is a necessity in this world.
Yes, absolutely. For sure.
I'm going to let you hit 6, 7, and 8.
Empathetic, number 6. They listen to understand, not just to reply. And that's a beautiful one. I love that because we have to do that. Number 7 is composed. They stay steady, especially when everything else isn't. And that's the person that you usually lean on when you're going through something miscomposed. Okay. And number 8, respectful. Even in tension, they choose words that build and not break.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So we'll get this graphic and put it in the show, in the show notes. So this has been a really good show.
Yeah.
I think it's really helped me. I'm continually trying to grow in this area. I'm a very passionate person, so sometimes my emotions are all over the place. Being to hone them in and make sure that I'm reflecting Jesus in my emotions, I think is an important point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Angela. Thank you so much for our listeners, our followers. We're so grateful for you. We're thankful that you are walking this journey out with us. If you know anyone, or if you're interested in being a part of our podcast, whether that is through giving, whether that is through just kind of sharing what we're doing, or if you want to be a guest, please make sure that you email us, and I'll put the link below. As well, we want to thank Mesmerize Media for being here with us and sponsoring us and helping us through this process. So I think that is it. And I am Christa Marshall. Thank you so much for being here again. And you are also with our amazing co-host,
Angela Williams. Yes. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.